Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. As we mentioned earlier, today we'll be dedicating this edition of the Breakfast Show to discussing Egyptian-African relations, particularly with Rwanda. And we are very honored to have with us a very special guest, an Egyptian woman who serves as an ambassador to Rwanda, Dr. Namira Negm, and she is going to tell us more about the new era or a new chapter when it comes to Egyptian-African relations. Good morning to you, Ambassador.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for coming.
Good morning, Ambassador Namira. Before going to air, we were talking that you are serving for almost 2.5 years in Rwanda. Tell us about your experience there and the Egyptian-Rwandan relations.
Well, first, Rwanda is a very small country, very beautiful. It's one of the countries of the Nile Basin, so it has real importance to Egypt. The relations between the two countries is going pretty well, and it's advancing. In the last few years, it's been accelerating to different levels. In the commercial sector, we have the balance of trade towards our benefit. It had doubled in the last 2 years. And the focus when we had the president and the minister in Rwanda gave a lot of focus to Rwanda.
Of course.
The relations between the presidents is very well. In the last summit held in Addis Ababa, His Excellency Minister Sameh Shukri met with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Rwanda. And they spoke about a lot of different means of cooperation and fields, including the exports of Egypt and assisting Rwanda in developing certain sectors in their manufacturing.
Okay. Ambassador Negm, you mentioned that there are various domains when it comes to mutual cooperation between Egypt and Rwanda. And you mentioned trade, for example, in addition, of course, to the political relations. Now, we can add to this also the judicial relations, because today there is a meeting of the African constitutional courts here in the Higher Constitutional Court in Cairo. So tell us more about that.
Actually, it's an initiative joined from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Constitutional Court of Egypt to bring together the chief justices of the African countries to discuss lessons learned, exchange of point of views, and everything in details when it comes to how the constitutional courts function in their countries. It brings countries more together in the judicial sector.
Ambassador Namira, back again to Rwanda and your experience there. We need more cooperation on the touristic and cultural levels with many African states. I do believe that many Egyptians, although Rwanda is a Nile Basin country and we do have many common factors, and still we lack a lot of information about that country. Not many Egyptians did visit Rwanda, or Rwandans did come to Egypt. So how can we work on that sector?
Actually, from the governmental sector, we're trying to foster that through cooperation between the Ministry of Tourism here and the Rwanda Development Board, which under its auspices, the tourism in Rwanda.
Indeed.
There is a lot of difference when it comes to the type of tourism that can take place. Like we have here historical tourism and beaches, but they have mountains, they have safaris, so they have different types of nature tourism. We try to inform people as much as we can over our page, the embassy's page, in order to let them know more about Rwanda. And the embassy here as well, the Rwandan embassy in Cairo, is trying to do the same. This is what we do on the governmental level. I think more attention will be needed from the Egyptian companies who work in tourism in order to assist the Rwandans as well to know more about Egypt and to be able to bring Rwandans to Egypt, and as well the Egyptians about the nature of Rwanda and what they can do there.
Ambassador Negm, now the Egyptian-African relations in general have been somehow troubled in the past years, but when President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi took office, things started to change, and we opened a new chapter with Africa in all fields. And if we talk about Rwanda in particular, the Egyptian embassy in Rwanda has been achieving success in various domains, and also in enhancing the Egyptian-Rwandan ties. If you could tell us more about the history or the background of Egyptian-Rwandan ties.
Actually, the relation started in 1967 as of the independence of Rwanda, and it continued onwards, and we have just last year celebrated the 40th anniversary of opening a residing embassy in Rwanda. The ties have been ongoing since their independence. There were, I wouldn't say ups and downs, but it's just like, as you said,
things are stable.
Yeah, it was stable, but there wasn't real movement. In the last few years, as you mentioned, since His Excellency President Sisi took over the power, we were able to go through a different direction and get back to Africa, as we say. And with that, we are having like a specific policy when it comes to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, with directives from the Minister, how we can work in fostering the relations, all of us around Africa, as ambassadors. And in Rwanda specifically, we're doing our best in order to open different fields for cooperation, suggest after our meetings with the officials there what we can do more to assist Rwanda in the, as we say, peace building, which is post-conflict development, which is going pretty well for now. We have, more investors from Egypt going to Rwanda, on all levels, small investors and bigger investors. We also have a lot of cooperation in the health sector, and even recently the minister met with the African ambassadors in Cairo to listen to them and see what we can do more.
Ambassador Namira, can we talk about here the role of the Egyptian embassy in Rwanda in creating more cooperation in different fields between both countries?
What we do basically is we start first by meeting the officials there. We know where we stand when it comes to the cooperation in every field. Then we ask them, what do you want from us? They know what Egypt can offer. So we ask them, can we assist in a specific field? What are the requirements? We assist in capacity building. We suggest different fields when it comes to the capacity building and training the officials there. Such as health, electricity, water, a lot of fields. And I was astonished to know like 50% of the officials of the Ministry of Power and Electricity in Rwanda received training here in Egypt. So we do that through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here in Egypt. We have a partnership agency within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that coordinates with the entities in the country here to focus on the trainings that is required. We give them feedback on the fields that we can work on. That is when it comes to the capacity building. We also help with doctors. We give doctors to Rwanda. They teach and they conduct surgeries in the hospitals there. We had donated some dialysis machines, and we are happy to assist in that. The other thing is, recently we had signed a new project, and that is one thing that was the effort of the embassy. Egyptian scientists had managed to find a cure for the larvae of the malaria, the mosquito that carries the malaria, Zika, and elephant disease. That is very needed in Africa in general. So when I went to Rwanda, I carried the information with me. We had been negotiating for 2 years with the Ministry of Health in Rwanda. Finally, the scientists came. They conducted the tests, which was very successful. The outcome was signing an MOU, and now it's getting into the execution stage. So that is one of the things that we consider a success for the Egyptian industry and for the Egyptian government. At the same time, We're trying to work on medical convoys that go to Rwanda, also to help them with the
do you
serious
work in
operations.
that in cooperation with the Ministry of Health here in Egypt? Or
Through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they are the ones who communicate and coordinate with the Ministry of Health. Exactly.
Okay.
We also have from Al-Azhar Arabic teachers and the religious sciences. They teach in the schools in Rwanda to the Muslim community, which also assists in spreading our culture to an extent. We have now one of the suggestions we worked on media, and we have just got the approval on the last phase of the negotiations, and an MOU is about to be signed between the two institutions in order to assist them as well in bringing our media to Rwanda.
Okay. Now you mentioned something very important, Ambassador Negm, which is the two important topics that you mentioned, culture and media. And perhaps the media could be the mean to spread culture between the two countries. Now, if we're talking about mutual relations between the two countries, perhaps the media can play a great role, because Maisi was asking about tourism, for example, bringing tourists from Rwanda to Egypt, and you answered her saying that they don't know much about Egypt, they don't know much about our culture or history. So conveying our culture and conveying to them what we have, what the country has to offer in terms of tourism and culture, and they would do the same. This could be done through the media. I would like you to highlight the role of the media in this regard.
Actually, we were considering few things. One is the series, the
Drama.
movies. So showing them on the TV will get them to know Egypt and the culture of Egypt. That's on one side. On the other, because they have a Muslim community and they wanted some programs on religion. And of course, our programs are the best to be shown because it's moderate.
Yes.
So that is something we can also explore. The other thing is not only actually when it comes to the culture and the history, but also when it comes to the trade itself. Because when you show even in the movies, for example, the potentials of Egypt, people would know that they can come here. We try to disseminate the information about what we produce in Egypt. The Rwandans, they go to different countries in the region where they have like the free trade, and they ship containers of their furniture, their clothing, or whatever. So we tell them, no, we are members of COMESA, come to Egypt. COMESA will give you total free trade, so you will not have to pay taxes in Rwanda for whatever you buy. I realize so many people don't know we produce furniture, for example. So this is something we're trying to work on.
And even the things that we don't produce, Ambassador Negm, I mean, Egypt is the gateway to Africa. So if there is anything that is not even produced here in Egypt and it's imported from Europe, for example, or from Asia, it could be done through Egypt as well. This is another means of mutual
It is true,
trade.
but we try to benefit from the COMESA. That is one of the edges we have.
Of course.
Because Rwanda and Egypt are both parties to the agreement. And because of that, the trade between both countries do not need any taxes. It's levied. So that is why it gives us a competitive edge there.
Yes.
One of the things that was recently even mentioned by the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Rwanda when she met the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Egypt, that they now need our expertise when it comes to the textiles, when it comes to the leather, because all the East African community, they will phase out using the used clothes and shoes within 5 years from now. And we're talking about a market of 140 million people. So, and we have a real competitive edge because our production is affordable to people. So we can explore every means to conquer that market when it comes to the textiles.
Okay.
What about the exporting field, Ambassador Namira? Of course, we need more export to Africa. we need to expand the trade level between Egypt and not only Rwanda, but most of the African states. How can we start to increase our export to Africa?
One thing, I think it's something we have to explore here internally, to have either an institution or a state minister just for trade and investment in Africa.
We do need that.
I think because we need someone specialized just to disseminate the information about Africa, what they need, because we cannot put all Africa in one basket.
Indeed.
Because some of them have more manufacturing production than others, so we have to look into what they need, what we have a competitive edge in order to send our products there or explore the market there. There is a lot that especially sub-Saharan Africa needs, and they are now having very good percentage when it comes to the development. So we can use that to the mutual benefit of both countries, because they need the expertise, we have the expertise. They need production, we have the production. So things like that, we can work it out, but we need to disseminate the information. That is what I have discovered, that the information itself is not reaching a lot of the Egyptian factories or manufacturers here to know that they can explore the market in Africa, which is like an open market for our products. At the same time, for the Africans themselves, like in Rwanda, for example, the Rwanda Development Board is the gateway for any investor coming into Rwanda. They have specialists and database full of all the information any investor would require in any field. So we have this here when it comes to the investment authority, but we do not have similarities when it comes to the information about Africa in Egypt and the African countries specifically in Egypt, and I think we need that.
Okay. Ambassador Negm, now, as you mentioned, Rwanda is a country that emerged from armed conflict after years in armed conflict with Burundi. And Egypt also is emerging from a state of revolution, two revolutions in a very short period of time, and suffering from political and economic, somehow, instability. And perhaps this is the best time for those two countries to come together and share what they can do in this regard. Now, Rwanda, of course, has emerged from war, and Egypt from a revolution, and this is the time that the two peoples, I'm talking about the people's level, not the governmental level, can come together and come closer, don't you think?
Well, let me clarify a few things in your statement. First, the war in Rwanda was a genocide and internal. So it was not with Burundi. Burundi itself had the same type of genocide, but the number of people who died were less.
Yes.
That's one thing. The other thing is they were in a civil war. We are not in a civil war. So the situation is pretty different.
No, I'm not comparing the situation.
Yes.
They were in a state of civil war, and we were in a state of revolution.
Yes.
I mean, that's opening new chapter in any country. So this is where the people start to come out from a state of fatigue, if I may say,
Yes.
and start thinking more about the future. There is no comparison between
Yes.
what happened in Burundi and in Egypt. This is not what I meant, is that after this state of instability and turmoil, you start to think more in a different way about achieving democracy, about achieving peace, about new concepts that you didn't think about before in previous years.
Well, actually, we can say that, but because the time span since the genocide has been above 20 years, and we've just got out of the revolution phase and so on. But the issue of focusing internally on sorting out the problems that were left out because of the revolution
exactly,
or whatever.
This is what I mean.
Yes, that can be to an extent similar, but the time span in Rwanda and Egypt is a bit different.
Of course, yes.
And I think it's the good thing is, like, the two countries now are stable, and the people are yearning to have more stability on one side and more development on the other side.
Exactly.
So this is definitely similar.
Again, if we are talking here, Ambassador Namira, about the development and about the more stability in the country, and we are talking about tourism. You have kindly mentioned that the safari tourism in Rwanda is quite an experience, I believe. We do not know more about or the details about it. We do hear a lot about the safari in South Africa, maybe in Kenya, but we do not know a lot about the safari in Rwanda. So can you tell us more?
Sure. Actually, South Africa, you mentioned South Africa and Kenya. They are the best in the continent with Tanzania when it comes to the safari.
Yes, indeed.
The safari in Rwanda is more limited when it comes to the like the types of animals that you can see. But they have something unique. There is the gorilla mountains that are between Rwanda, Uganda, and DRC Congo. The three countries share a mountain where specific types of gorilla lives. These gorillas share with the human being around 80% of the components of the brain.
Okay.
They think like us. They live in families. They have a house. So this is unique. And Rwanda actually like market itself with this type of gorilla. The experience is amazing.